Good evening and welcome to Trans Talk. The subject of tonight's video is about an article that was written by a sports publication called Grantland. It's an ESPN-owned sports and entertainment site. One of their authors recently did an article about a putter. The person who invented it is named Dr. V. It's Dr. Vanderbilt, who is a transgendered individual, transgender woman. And in the midst of the article, the author of the article didn't exactly engage in the rules of ethical journalism. He tried to verify certain details that Dr. V had given him, such as the time that she spent at MIT. She didn't disclose that that time at MIT was pre her going full time, pre her becoming who she was. This editorial or this article quickly spiraled downhill as journalistic curiosity got the better of this person. Okay. Now, what ended up happening from it was the author, his name is Caleb Hannon, did a lot of digging into Dr. V's background. Caleb found out that she was transgendered, and he felt that because she did not disclose this information, she was trying to defraud him of his story. There was no fraud taking place. Her transgender status had absolutely nothing to do with the story. She'd invented a putter that improved the game of golfers. Plain and simple. It improved the golfer's game. It was picked up by another ESPN journalist. He had verified to Caleb that all of the information was correct. Now, in the process of this, he went to Dr. V, disclosed the information that was found, and flat out told her that he was going to out her as being transgendered. Had absolutely nothing to do with the article. Dr. V was not able to deal with this. She committed suicide approximately a week to 2 weeks later. I'm not exactly sure as to time of death, but the suicide was attributed to this article. Now, the editor, which is Bill Simons, he's the founder of Grantland, has written a somewhat backhanded apology on the site. 4 major speaking points, and this is brought to you courtesy of Think Progress, is that 1, Simon recognizes that this was an organizational failure, that the responsibility doesn't solely rely on Caleb Hannon. I have to disagree with him. 2, that it seems like the piece would not have run absent of Vanderbilt's suicide. Now, an excerpt from this on case number 2 is, we first searched the "is it worth it" point with Caleb's piece in September. After Caleb turned in a rollicking draft, sorry about that, I couldn't read the screen for a moment, that included a number of twists and turns. The story had no ending because Dr. V wouldn't talk to him anymore. After Caleb threatened to out Dr. V cut off all contact. He continued to badger her. He continued to harass her in an attempt to get her to continue to talk to him. Well, unfortunately, she didn't want to talk to him anymore. But his continued harassment, his threat to out her in a national sports publication, granted it's an internet piece, but it's still backed and ran by ESPN caused her to take her own life. As I was saying, the story had no ending because Dr. V wouldn't talk to him anymore. We never seriously considered running the piece, at least in the version's form. Our decision, and he states, "Sorry, Caleb, you need to keep reporting this one. It's not there." The way I take that is he needed to get a continuation on the putter, on the sports aspect, as it's a sports article. It turned into a very transphobic editorial that wasn't going to be ran until Dr. V committed suicide because of Caleb. Point number 3 is Vanderbilt's death is essentially the reason why the piece ran. But it's not clear that Grantland knew how to handle the sense that they had to publish. In the article, Caleb descended into sensationalism. Instead of taking Dr. V's feelings into consideration, or the feelings of any transgendered person into consideration, Caleb started to refer to Dr. V as he, him. Whereas Dr. V had transitioned, Dr. V had been full-time, Dr. V was a woman. Dr. V wanted to be referred to in the feminine. And point number 4 on the article is that no one on Grantland's staff is transgender. No one has experience with transgender issues or raised the possibility of running the story by anyone with the expertise or personal experience on the subject. They very easily could have went to GLAAD, who is trying to work with journalists, trying to work with newspapers, trying to work with news stations to get the sensationalism away from the transgender community. It doesn't matter that Dr. V used to be a guy. Big deal. At least physically a guy. The piece wasn't about that. The piece was about the putter that was still in development. In short, in this journalist's opinion, Caleb needs to be tried for endangerment. Caleb needs to be tried for manslaughter because it was a direct result of his threatening to out Dr. V that she committed suicide. So at the very least, prosecutors need to pick up on this and take it to a manslaughter charge, because he is the direct result. She is dead. Motive, opportunity. They have the body already. She's been buried. That's all that is needed in the United States. Now, Grantland was established to discover journalists with a very possible gift that they can bring to the journalistic field. Grantland's editors dropped the ball. Grantland should be tried under conspiracy, or at least the editor of Grantland, the founder of Grantland, Mr. Simons. All too often in the media right now, we are seeing sensationalism surrounding transgender issues. We are seeing sensationalism just in the general LGBT ring. But because of recent strides in gay rights, they're leaving the gays alone. They're leaving the lesbians alone. They're leaving the bisexuals alone. They're concentrating on transgender. They're concentrating on genderqueer. They are promoting an air of hate. This is not acceptable. Bill Simons, you need to remove this man from your staff. At the very, very least. The prosecutors in your area need to take up this case and let him know that there is journalistic integrity still. There is a responsibility of journalists to report the truth, not to sensationalize things, not to take a sports article and turn it into a transphobic, homophobic piece of garbage that should have never been put on your site. He needs to be tried under manslaughter charges. He is the direct cause of her death. This is the first one I've heard of for 2014. Her suicide happened in December of 2013, from what I've been able to gather. No more. If you have questions, Mr. Simons, you can contact this author. You can contact this journalist. I will educate you. You can contact GLAAD. GLAAD. They are a national organization. You can contact the National Transgender Equality Center. They will educate you. There are multiple organizations that you could have ran this piece by that would have thrown up so many red flags. You, as well as Caleb, are directly responsible for this woman's death. Get over yourselves. We are human beings. Deal with it.